All right, today we are doing a company spotlight and we are taking you to a very interesting piece of software that was brought to my attention by an old friend of mine, Joseph Berman of our Pod to Pod days. We are chatting with the founders of TwinBox AI, Dennis Belovsky and his wife, Elena Bolivskaya. Dennis and Elena, thank you so much for joining me today.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew.
So start us off with just a quick overview. What does TwinBox do exactly? And who really is your target podcaster that would most benefit from this platform?
Right. Yeah, probably. I will start with that. About a year ago, we started with an issue. We heard from our friends who is podcaster experts that's like for most brands and businesses, like podcast is a marketing funnel, right? So like people put tons of efforts into growing their audience, but it's very tough to monetize their fan base. So it's supposed to be a solution, but it rarely works for niche podcasts with less than 50,000 listeners. So small and mid-tier podcasts make their revenue through their superfans. That's about like 5 to 10% of their fan base. And we at TwinBox, we help podcasters to turn their superfans into buyers of their premium services and programs through contextual AI conversations. That's like,
what does that mean? What does contextual AI conversations really mean?
Basically we automatically aggregate any content produced by a podcaster, right? Like we then connect it to a dedicated knowledge base and then with AI. So now AI can talk to your listeners in your own language and voice, answering any questions. Like that means contextual. So like they are able to ask any questions about any piece of content you ever produced and get an answer in your own language and voice. So like they are able to communicate with AI like they're communicating with digital you.
And that would come up as like a chat box on their website. They would just install that like they would any other kind of third-party software.
Right. It's a turnkey solution, and there is a snippet of the code. You inject it into your platform or website, and it pops up on your website like a web widget, like a chatbot.
So how did you think this up? I mean, I've never heard of anything like this, something that, we have lots of AI solutions right now in the podcasting world that will listen to your audio, watch your video, create show notes, right? Help you with creating other sorts of topics. But what was it that made you want to take this to the next step to create an actual, bot, let's say, based on that AI information?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like how we started, we did tons of interviews, like hundreds of interviews with both podcasters and listeners, and we noticed a pattern, right? So like listeners want podcasts to be more interactive, and they want personalized content, while podcasters, they in their turn want to know exactly when it is the best time to upsell their premium to them. So we thought that, okay, seems that there is a need on both sides, and that's how we decide to let podcasters talk to any number of their fans instantly without putting any efforts into that, right? Like you do not have to spend your time on talking to each and every fans, while they still get this feeling of personalized answers and context.
Yeah, and podcasting is still largely a one-way street. And by integrating TwinBox, we are trying to make podcasts more dynamic and responsive to listener needs. And this interaction, it makes podcasts feel like two-way communication, which in its turn enhances listener engagement, especially for educational and business content. And we help podcasters understand their audience's interests through these interactions and guide them on what topics to focus on in future episodes.
Oh, I definitely want to come back to that it's not just working on your past episodes, but also kind of helping you guide the future episodes. I'm curious, when you were talking to listeners and they said they wanted podcasting to be more interactive, was the question, do you want your podcast to be more interactive? Or, how did the audience say they wanted to, have more of a back and forth versus just be listeners to shows?
Yeah, the thing is that for listeners, there's just few ways to contact podcaster directly, right? Like, I mean, whether it is an email or maybe comments on social media or whatever. And it doesn't seem like a dialogue, especially when the experts are, very busy with producing new content. They do not have enough time to answering repetitive questions to the listeners. So listeners want to feel that there is a way to contact you directly. So like they value it a lot, and we wanted to help them to obtain this connection.
So, Elena, going back to what you were saying, the software not only helps you take your existing content and turn it into something that your target audience, your potential clients, customers, whatever, can interact with, but it can also help you shape future episodes. How does that work?
Yeah, so we are actually analyzing all the conversations that happen within TwinBox for specific podcaster, and we are creating the list of topics which are the most popular within these conversations. And based on this analytics, podcaster is able to understand what exactly is on the mind of their fans, what they're most interested in, what they care about the most. So it is done with the help of analytics, basically.
Okay. So what does it look like, right? Take me through a real world scenario of sorts, if you can, right? What would be, what's an ideal client for this? And then what would those kind of interactions look like with their target audience, right? What would be the big CTAs, call to actions that the audience would get that would benefit the podcaster at the end of the day?
So yeah, probably I'll try to answer this one. Let's say you are a wellness coach, right? And you just started your podcast. You have, let's say, several hundreds or maybe thousands of listeners, and you have your one-on-one coaching sessions. You are going to sell through these podcasts. So like how it works, you like through TwinBox, now listeners can ask any questions about, for example, how to sleep better, right? And they get an answer based on their question, obviously. So we scan the whole content produced by you as a wellness coach. It might include your podcast, it might include your newsletters and blog posts and whatever other content you produced. And we combine it into an answer in your tone and language, through back into your fan who is talking to you at this moment. So now, if that listener would like to continue this conversation, we keep all the history of conversation that fan currently has with you, and basically. They are able to continue this dialogue, asking, providing more information about them, like personalizing their request. I'm, 33 years old, and I have like these type of issues. And now we get more and more information from your knowledge base, and like it feels like almost a personal consultation with that fan. Then at some point, when we see that that fan is interested in a specific topic, we are suggesting a contextual upsell to them. So for example, if you would like to sell your one-on-one coaching session, that's a really good time to offer this consultation to them, since you and like we at TwinBox, we understand that now that fan is very inclined to buy from you, since like the conversation continues, there are more questions from their sides, and we analyze all your premium content and all your premium services you would like to offer. And if there is a match, we generate an upsell to that user, intelligent upsell, and offer it to them.
Yeah, and the upsell that feels very natural and non-intrusive, and this really increases conversion rates.
Yeah.
The non-intrusive part, that is going to be I imagine a big pushback from a lot of people who are concerned about their privacy, who are concerned about their data being stored. How do you address those types of concerns that are very common these days in the digital world?
Right, like we have several clients who are, in specific industries like legal, for example, right, or health, and we are working with them, adjusting TwinBox according to their specific needs. So if they want the tool to have some specific compliances, we are thinking how to obtain them so that to make sure that it completely follows all the guidelines they have to follow. So like all our processes are secure. We are using only the software that's that works for our clients. And
Okay.
did
What
I
else
answer
should
your
people
question, or maybe yeah?
I am not a privacy expert, so I don't know. But I know anytime I talk about something like this, I know that's the first thing that people always come back to is, is this going to be compliant with like, EU GDPR regulations? Why would I want to, talk to AI and tell them all my problems, right? Like it's just something that always seems to come up now in the digital world. And so I figure this is one thing that you had to have thought about. And just the fact that you have will probably, calm a lot of those fears.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And with the help of our clients who are kind of also our design partners, right? Like we design our solutions to match their specific needs and demands. So like, as you mentioned, like the whole world tries to adjust to, this new reality with AI, and we're doing the same with the help of our clients.
Okay. What else should people know about TwinBox if they're interested in signing up and checking it out and want to take it for a spin?
We're happy to talk with anyone who is interested to learn more about our tool. We're happy to do the demo. We are doing all the hard work ourselves. Like you basically don't have to do anything. We pull all the data, we aggregate it, we optimize it before we use it in your dedicated knowledge base. We like basically nothing is expected from you. So just come to our websites, learn more about our products. We are happy to talk with each interested person directly, since the feedback and the conversation is what matters to us most at this moment.
And so once again, folks, that is twinbox.ai. Of course, we'll have a link to that platform right here in the show notes, so you can check it out for yourself. I'm curious, before I get to our typical questions that we ask everybody, what was your involvement in the world of podcasting before TwinBox? Was it, you were big into podcasting and this is a solution, or you kind of had this idea for a solution and realized podcasting was the right place to apply it?
Yeah, Alena, do you want to jump in? Or
Sure. So we are active listeners of podcasts. I think that podcasting has become a major source of educating oneself. So we were doing that all the time, and we are full-time travelers, so we drive a lot, and podcasting is the most popular thing that we do while we're driving, listening to podcasts. So we also have a mentor, as Dennis mentioned, Brian, who is he's a business mentor, but at the same time, he's a very successful podcaster. And we have been communicating with him a lot. And we were working on a separate solution, but he was mentioning a lot of problems that he comes across while doing podcasting. That's why we started just investigating this area because of him, probably.
Okay. Very cool. Well, and like I said, I had a previous relationship with Joseph Berman. We worked together on the old news website Pod to Pod, and unfortunately, there are just much better products that came out to do that. But working in was certainly a joy and a pleasure. And I'm glad to hear that he's also found some more good folks to work with like yourself. So the questions I like to ask everybody that comes on the show that are related to it is there another place in the world of podcasting, whether as a listener or maybe someone who is a guest on podcast software, where you'd like to see some sort of improvement take place?
Yeah, like if we're talking about those things that are not yet invented in, like for me as a listener, I always want to dive deeper into some specific topic that was, like mentioned during an episode, but not covered enough for me. And I think that with AI and with access to the whole like wealth of knowledge through AI and tech, it should be now possible to continue this conversation with your favorite podcaster about this topic even after the episode is over. Like for me, and I guess for lots of other listeners, it's really critical to keep this personal connection with your favorite creators. And I guess it would be extremely powerful as soon as such tool will become available. Like being able to access any creator anytime you want instantly, that would be powerful.
Oh, I think that a huge thing is accessibility. And this is actually the area which is, for some reason, not paid much attention to in podcasting world, and specifically making podcasts accessible for deaf and hard of hearing people. And within the podcast industry, it's very hard, almost impossible to find an like authentically accessible podcast that is engineered, designed, and created with accessibility in mind for hundreds of millions of deaf and hard of hearing people globally. And I think that technology should be able to ensure that podcasts are accessible for all. So yeah, I think that's a huge one.
Yeah, I mean that is definitely one that a lot of people have been talking about for a while, and it's starting to definitely improve, especially with the introduction of automated transcripts by Apple, and I think other platforms are quickly taking note of it. And truthfully, even more of the hosting platforms are incorporating hosting as an option to deliver to end users. So I think you're right where we haven't done enough, although we are moving in the right direction, which is nice. What about physical tech? Is there, for a lot of the folks that we talk to on the show, it's really about recording and cameras and microphones and mixers and things like that. Is there any kind of actual hardware that you've been dreaming of getting to, work within podcasting, or something that, is on your wish list?
Yeah, that's a painful topic to me. I mean, like, I'm constantly encountering tons of issues with my headset, like whether it is AirPods or, any other producer. Now I'm using Sony, and like I have constant issues with like Bluetooth connection. So probably something that never have these issues would be, I mean, I would pay a lot for such a thing that is, proof of work of working all the time when I need it to be on.
What about you, Elena?
Yeah, I think that this thing is both for Dennis and for me. Just the connection with the Bluetooth. Always suffering with that. Can't think of anything else right now, to be honest.
That's
The
okay.
hardware.
I also think that this probably is the most crucial problem for us because, as Elena mentioned, we're traveling a lot and we're working from different places all the time. So, like, it is really important for us to have something that is very reliable in terms of, noise cancellation and all this stuff. And it's painful.
I understand. I totally understand. And hopefully, we're working on a few solutions that we can send your way, and you can try out and tell us whether or not we're on the right track for you. Lastly, is there a podcast that you listen to that every time it comes out, it's whatever you're doing, you're stopping and you're going ahead and listening to that?
Yeah, there are a few actually, and as we mentioned several times already, been traveling, doing traveling a lot. Our listening preference really depends upon the situation and different things that we're doing at the moment. Like, we're working a lot on TwinBox right now. So we have two podcasts that we mostly listen to. This is Lenny's podcast, which has tons of insights about the product with the focus on technology. And also it is the podcast by our mentor, Brian Scordata, which is Ideas to Startup. And it helps founders in the area of marketing and customer relations. Besides that, wellness topics are always on top of our mind, since we have very extremely tense schedule, and we have to come down sometimes a bit, and listening to mental health podcast helps here a lot. One that comes to mind is Heal with Grace, which is a mental health podcast. So yeah, these are probably the three major ones we can remember.
What about you, Dennis?
Yeah, I would second Alana. Like, for me, podcasts are always, like, they should be educational. I'm not really a huge fan of like pure entertainment through podcasts. So Like when I have a problem, I'm looking, for a podcast that might help me to solve this problem. So that's why all of them are educational. Lenny is amazing. We, went through his whole, podcasts, and yeah, there are a few others, but the idea here is that's like they are very niche. I mean, I usually, not trying to listen just to one or two favorite creators, but to roam around the whole podcasting industry, trying to figure like what works for me at these moments.
Good to have some variety and to expand your horizons in every direction that you can. So I like that. Once again, we've been chatting with Denis Belovsky and Alena Bolivskaya. They are the founders of TwinBox. You can learn more about their platform at TwinBox AI. And if you are a podcaster who really wants your audience to engage with you, buy from you, work with you, there's really follow-up to it more than just being an entertaining podcast. This is definitely a platform that I think is worth checking out and possibly trying out. Denis and Elena, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Matthew, for having us.
It was great. Thanks a lot, Matthew.